A shy new kid endures daily torment until his secret MMA training leaves Bullies shattered. Alex Chen stood frozen in the hallway of Westlake High, clutching his schedule like a shield. At 15, he was small for his age, 5'6" with a slight build that made him look even younger. His oversized glasses slid down his nose as he scanned the room numbers, trying to find his first class. Being the new kid halfway through sophomore year was bad enough, but being the new Asian kid in a predominantly white school made him stand out even more. Just get through the day without drawing attention, he told himself, pushing his glasses back up. The hallway buzzed with the comfortable chatter of students who had known each other for years. No one even glanced his way as he navigated through the crowd, which was fine by him. Alex had moved 6 times in the past 5 years due to his father's military reassignments. He'd learned that staying quiet and invisible was the best strategy for surviving a new school. What no one at Westlake High knew, what no one had known at any of his schools, was that Alex had been training in mixed martial arts since he was 7. His father, a former Marine with a passion for combat sports, had insisted that his son learn to defend himself. By now, Alex had earned black belts in both Taekwondo and Judo, and had recently begun competing in regional MMA tournaments under his coach's guidance. Not that anyone would guess it from looking at him. His mother's insistence on focusing on academics meant that Alex downplayed his training, keeping it as a private passion. He never wore his tournament shirts to school or talked about his weekend competitions. His parents had drilled into him that fighting at school was absolutely forbidden. It could jeopardize his father's military career if Alex got into trouble. "Hey, watch it, chink." The harsh voice cut through Alex's thoughts as a shoulder slammed into him, sending him stumbling against the lockers. His schedule fluttered to the ground, and several students snickered. Looking up, Alex found himself staring at 3 boys. The one who had bumped him stood front and center, tall and broad-shouldered, with cropped blonde hair and a Letterman jacket. His sneer revealed perfectly straight teeth, likely the product of expensive orthodontic work. "Sorry," Alex mumbled, bending to retrieve his schedule. "What was that?" "Couldn't understand your accent," the boy said, placing his foot on the paper just before Alex could grab it. "I said sorry," Alex repeated, louder this time, straightening up. "It was an accident." "I'm Tyler Weiss," the boy said, ignoring Alex's response. "This is Damon and Chris." He gestured to the 2 boys flanking him, one tall and lanky with a dark crew cut, the other stockier with reddish-brown hair. "And you need to watch where you're going." Tyler lifted his foot, allowing Alex to snatch his now footprinted schedule from the floor. "I'm Alex," he said quietly, though no one had asked. "Whatever," Tyler said, already losing interest. "Just stay out of my way, Bruce Lee." The 3 boys laughed as they continued down the hallway, shoving past a few younger students as they went. "Keep your head down. Don't engage. Don't give them a reason to notice you." Alex took a deep breath, smoothed out his schedule, and continued searching for his classroom. By lunchtime, Alex had managed to navigate most of his classes without incident. The teachers had made him introduce himself, which was uncomfortable, but at least they'd assigned him seats and given him textbooks. He knew the routine. Within a week, people would stop staring at him when he entered a room. The cafeteria, however, was another matter. Alex stood at the entrance, tray in hand, scanning the crowded room. Rectangular tables filled the space, each one occupied by clearly defined social groups. He spotted Tyler and his friends at a central table, surrounded by other athletes and pretty girls in cheerleading uniforms. "Just find an empty spot. Eat quickly. Get out." He made his way to a table at the far corner, where a few students sat with considerable space between them. The universal table for loners and outcasts. He slid onto the bench, keeping his eyes on his food as he unwrapped his sandwich. "You're in my seat." Alex looked up to see Damon, Tyler's lankier friend, standing over him. "Oh, sorry," Alex said, already gathering his things. "I didn't know." "Pretty sure they have separate tables for fobs," Damon said, using the derogatory term for immigrants. "I was born in California," Alex replied automatically, immediately regretting engaging. Damon's eyes narrowed. "Are you correcting me?" "No, Hey, Tyler," Damon called out, not taking his eyes off Alex. "The new kid says he doesn't have to move because he was born in California." Alex's heart sank as he saw Tyler and Chris making their way toward him from across the cafeteria. Several nearby tables had gone quiet, students watching with the uncomfortable fascination of spectators at an accident scene. "That right?" Tyler asked, arriving at the table. "You think you're special because you were born here?" "No," Alex said, standing up. "I was just leaving." "Not so fast," Tyler said, placing a hand on Alex's shoulder and pushing him back down. We haven't properly welcomed you yet." Before Alex could react, Chris had grabbed his chocolate milk carton and upended it over Alex's lunch tray, flooding his sandwich and apple. "Oops," Chris said with exaggerated concern. "Looks like you made a mess." Tyler leaned in close. "Clean. Say it up, new kid." Alex stared at his ruined lunch, calculating his options. He could feel the eyes of the entire cafeteria on him. His right hand twitched slightly, muscle memory from countless sparring sessions urging him to sweep Tyler's arm aside, to counter with one of a dozen different strikes. But his father's voice echoed in his head. "You never use what you've learned, unless you have no choice. School fights get you suspended, and that's not acceptable in this family." So Alex grabbed a handful of napkins and began sopping up the spilled milk, his face burning with humiliation. "That's what I thought," Tyler said with a smirk before turning away. "Come on, guys. Suddenly I've lost my appetite." As they walked away, Alex heard Chris say, "Did you see his face? Pathetic. Just 14 more months until another transfer." Alex thought, throwing the soggy mess into a nearby trash can. "I can survive anything for 14 months. The next few weeks established a pattern. Tyler and his friends, who Alex learned were all juniors on the wrestling team, seemed to delight in finding new ways to torment him. They knocked books from his hands in the hallway, made loud racist comments when he walked by, and occasionally shoved him into lockers when teachers weren't looking. The gym became a particular nightmare. Coach Phillips, a middle-aged man with a permanent scowl, seemed uninterested in curbing the behavior of his star athletes. During dodgeball, Alex became the primary target, pelted with balls thrown with much more force than necessary. When picking teams, he was invariably chosen last. Other students, seeing how Tyler's group treated Alex, either joined in with smaller acts of cruelty or simply avoided him altogether. No one wanted to become a target by association. After particularly bad days, Alex would come home and spend hours at the small punching bag his father had installed in the garage. He imagined Tyler's face as he executed perfect combinations: jab, cross, hook, uppercut. His kicks left the heavy bag swinging on its chain. But the temporary relief never lasted. "You seem tense lately," his father observed one evening as they practiced grappling techniques on the mats they'd laid out. "Everything okay at school?" "It's fine," Alex said, not meeting his eyes. "Just the usual new kid stuff." His father, perceptive as always, paused their training. "Remember what Master Park always says, a fighter's greatest weapon is restraint." Alex finished for him. "I know, Dad, I'm not going to do anything stupid." His father nodded, seemingly satisfied. "Good. Your junior tournament is coming up in a month. Keep your focus there." Alex nodded back, then took up his stance again. "Focus on what matters. School is temporary. This is what lasts." 3 weeks into the semester, Alex was navigating the crowded hallway between classes when he felt a hard shove from behind. His books scattered across the floor as he stumbled forward, nearly falling. Turning around, he found Tyler and his friends laughing. "Didn't see you there, Chen," Tyler said with mock innocence. "You're just so invisible." Alex bent down to gather his belongings, his face hot. As he reached for his math textbook, a foot came down on his outstretched hand. Not hard enough to injure, but firmly enough to trap it against the cold tile. "I've been wondering," Tyler said, leaning down slightly. "Is it true that Asian guys have tiny dicks?" "That's what everyone says." Several onlookers laughed nervously. Alex remained silent, focusing on controlling his breathing the way he did before a match. "I asked you a question," Tyler said, pressing down harder on Alex's hand. "Let me go," Alex said quietly. "What was that? Couldn't hear you. I said let me go." Alex's voice was still calm but firmer now. Tyler exchanged amused glances with Damon and Chris. "Or what?" For a brief moment, Alex considered the question seriously. "Or I could break your ankle with a single twist, or I could sweep your supporting leg and have you on the ground in under a second." But he said nothing, and after a few more uncomfortable seconds, Tyler removed his foot. "That's what I thought," he said, kicking Alex's notebook further down the hall before walking away with his friends. As Alex gathered his scattered belongings, he noticed a girl helping to collect some of his papers. She had curly brown hair pulled back in a ponytail and sympathetic eyes behind round glasses. "They're jerks," she said quietly, handing him a stack of worksheets. "I'm Emma, by the way. We have English together." "Alex," he replied, taking the papers. "Gratefully." "I know," she said with a small smile. "Not many of us transfer mid-year. You kind of stand out." "Apparently," he said dryly. "Why do you let them treat you like that?" she asked as they both stood up. Alex shrugged. "Fighting back just makes things worse." "Maybe," Emma said, unconvinced. "But doing nothing doesn't seem to be working either." The warning bell rang before Alex could respond. "See you in English," Emma said, giving him a small wave as she hurried off. Alex watched her go, considering her words. She's right. Doing nothing isn't working. But what am I supposed to do? The locker room after gym class had become the most dangerous time in Alex's day. Coach Phillips always disappeared into his office, leaving the boys unsupervised. As they showered and changed, Alex had developed a strategy of lingering on the gym floor, pretending to practice basketball shots until most of the class had finished changing. It wasn't foolproof, but it reduced the time he had to spend in Tyler's presence. Today, however, Coach Phillips blew his whistle and announced, "Chen, stop wasting time and hit the showers. Not running a recreation center here." Alex reluctantly made his way to the locker room, hearing the boisterous voices of the other boys before he even opened the door. He kept his eyes down as he moved to his locker, hoping to remain unnoticed. For a few minutes it seemed to work. He managed to change out of his gym clothes and was just pulling his regular shirt over his head when he heard Tyler's voice. Well, look who finally decided to join us." Alex said nothing, focusing on gathering his things quickly. "I'm talking to you, Chen," Tyler said, stepping closer. "What? Too good to answer." "Just trying to change," Alex said evenly, closing his locker. "Hold up," Damon said, suddenly grabbing Alex's arm. "What's this?" Before Alex could pull away, Damon had pushed up his sleeve, revealing the edge of a large bruise on his bicep, a souvenir from his last sparring session. "Somebody's been beating on our little friend," Tyler said with feigned concern. "Who was it, Chen? Your strict Asian daddy?" "It's from training," Alex said, yanking his arm back and pulling down his sleeve. "Training for what?" "Math Olympics," Chris snickered. Alex grabbed his backpack. "I need to get to class." No, I'm interested now," Tyler said, blocking his path. "What kind of training gives you bruises like that?" Alex hesitated. "Mixed martial arts." There was a moment of silence before all three boys burst out laughing. "You?" Tyler wheezed. "That's the funniest thing I've ever heard." "He probably means like Kung Fu Panda stuff," Damon added, making exaggerated martial arts poses and sounds that bore no resemblance to any actual fighting style. "Show us some moves, Bruce Lee," Tyler said, giving Alex a shove that sent him back against the lockers. Something shifted in Alex in that moment. Not anger. He'd been trained to control that, but a cold certainty that this wouldn't stop, that it would only escalate. "I don't want trouble," he said, the phrase he'd been taught to say before defending himself. "Too late," Tyler said, shoving him again, harder this time. Alex remained rooted in place, his balance perfect. His eyes met Tyler's, and for the first time, he didn't look away. "Back off," he said quietly. Something in his tone must have registered because Tyler hesitated, briefly before covering it with a smirk. "Or what, you'll karate chop me?" "Just leave me alone," Alex said, sidestepping around him and walking toward the exit, his heart pounding. Behind him, he heard Tyler call out, "This isn't over, Chen." "No," Alex thought. "I don't think it is." The confrontation in the locker room seemed to have escalated things. Now Tyler and his friends seemed determined to prove that Alex's martial arts training was a lie. They made kung fu noises when he walked by, called him sensei, and repeatedly tried to bait him into a fight. Alex maintained his composure, but he could feel his resolve weakening. His tournament was in 2 weeks, and the constant tension at school was affecting his focus during training. "Your mind isn't here tonight," his coach observed after their third sparring session, during which Alex had missed several obvious openings. "What's going on?" Alex wiped sweat from his forehead with a towel. "Nothing, just school stuff." His coach, a compact man with close-cropped grey hair who had competed professionally for years, gave him a knowing look. "Bullies?" Alex's surprise must have shown on his face, because his coach nodded. "It's always either bullies or a girl. You're not showing signs of being lovesick, so I figured it was the former." "It doesn't matter," Alex said, taking a drink from his water bottle. "I'm handling it." "By letting them walk all over you?" When Alex didn't respond, his coach sighed. "I've known you since you were 12, Alex. You're not just any 15-year-old. You fight at a level that would scare most grown men. Why let some high school punks push you around?" "My dad says—" "I know what your dad says," his coach interrupted. "And he's right that you shouldn't start fights. But there's a difference between starting a fight and finishing one." He paused, making sure Alex was listening. "Sometimes you have to show people who you really are, not to hurt them but to stop them from hurting you." Alex considered this. "But what if I get in trouble? What if it gets back to my dad's commanding officer?" "Standing up for yourself isn't a crime, Alex. Just make sure when you do it right, controlled, minimal force, and only when you have no other option." He clapped Alex on the shoulder. "Now, let's try that combination again, and this time, keep your mind in the present." The breaking point came on a rainy Thursday in the school parking lot. Alex was walking to his bus when he heard Emma's voice, sharp with anger. "Give it back, Tyler." Alex turned to see Emma reaching futilely for her backpack, which Tyler held above his head just out of her reach. Damon and Chris stood nearby, laughing. "Jump for it," Tyler taunted. "Come on, jump." "This isn't funny," Emma said, her face flushed with anger and embarrassment. "My laptop is in there." "Should have thought of that before you called me a Neanderthal in class," Tyler replied. "I had to look that up, you know. Not very nice." "It was an accurate comparison," Emma shot back, still trying to grab her bag. "Now give it back." Tyler's face darkened. "Make me, bitch." Before he could react, Tyler swung the backpack away from Emma and released it, sending it flying through the air directly toward a large puddle that had formed near the curb. Alex moved without thinking. 3 quick steps and he was there, catching the backpack inches before it would have splashed into the muddy water. The momentum carried him forward, but he maintained his balance with practiced ease. The parking lot went suddenly quiet. "Nice catch," Tyler said after a moment, his voice laced with sarcasm. "Your kung fu is strong." Alex handed the backpack to Emma, whose eyes were wide with surprise. "Thanks," she said quietly. "No problem," he replied, before turning to face Tyler. "That was unnecessary. What are you going to do about it?" Tyler challenged, stepping closer. Alex stood his ground. "Nothing, if you walk away now." Tyler laughed incredulously. "Is that a threat?" "It's a choice," Alex said, his voice steady. "Your choice." By now a small crowd had gathered, sensing confrontation. Alex was acutely aware of the audience, of the phones that had come out to record whatever happened next. "I think the little kung fu master needs a reality check," Tyler said, glancing at his friends, who moved to flank him. "What do you guys think?" "Definitely," Chris agreed with a predatory grin. "Alex, don't," Emma said, touching his arm. "They're not worth it." But Alex had already made his decision. His coach's words echoed in his mind. "Sometimes you have to show people who you really are." "Last chance," he said quietly. "Walk away." Tyler's response was a sudden lunge forward, his right arm extending in what would have been a painful shove if it had connected. Alex sidestepped with such fluid precision that several onlookers gasped. Tyler stumbled forward, thrown off balance by meeting no resistance. "What the?" he began, turning back with anger flashing in his eyes. "Don't," Alex warned, his stance subtly shifting. To most observers, he probably just looked like he was standing normally, but anyone with training would recognize the perfectly balanced posture, the slightly bent knees, the hands held casually but ready at his sides. Tyler, however, saw only the same small, quiet boy he'd been tormenting for weeks. He charged again, this time swinging a wild punch aimed at Alex's face. Alex parried the blow with his left forearm, deflecting it outward while simultaneously stepping inside Tyler's guard. His right hand shot out in a perfectly controlled palm, strike to Tyler's chest, just enough force to push him back without causing injury. Tyler staggered back several steps, his face a mask of shock. "What the hell?" "I told you to walk away," Alex said calmly. A crowd had definitely formed now, students watching in disbelief as the quiet new kid faced down the school's notorious bully. "Get him," Tyler commanded his friends. Damon hesitated, but Chris moved forward, attempting to grab Alex from behind. With movements that seemed effortless, Alex ducked under the attempted hold, used Chris's momentum against him, and executed a simple sweep that sent the larger boy sprawling onto the wet asphalt. "Stay down," Alex advised as Chris struggled to his feet, face red with embarrassment and rage. Damon, seeing what had happened to Chris, backed away. "Dude, I think he actually knows this stuff." But Tyler wasn't ready to accept defeat. With a roar of frustration, he charged Alex again, this time more carefully, his wrestling training evident in his stance. He feinted left before diving low for a takedown. Alex had spent years training against wrestlers. He sprawled perfectly, preventing Tyler from securing his legs, then used the boy's forward momentum to guide him down to the ground. In seconds, he had transitioned to a controlling position behind Tyler, one arm wrapped around his neck in a light hold that could have been much more restrictive had Alex chosen to apply pressure. "It's over," Alex said quietly near Tyler's. "I don't want to hurt you. Nod if you're done." For a moment, Tyler continued to struggle, but the efficiency of Alex's control soon made it clear to him that he was outmatched. Finally, he gave a grudging nod. Alex immediately released him and backed away, hands up in a non-threatening gesture. The crowd of students was completely silent, phones still recording as Tyler slowly got to his feet, rubbing his neck. "Where did you learn to do that?" someone finally asked from the crowd. Alex shrugged slightly. I train at Pinnacle MMA, 5 days a week for the past 8 years. A murmur ran through the gathered students. Pinnacle was well known. Their fighters routinely dominated regional competitions and had sent several athletes to the UFC. Bullshit, Tyler spat, but there was uncertainty in his voice now. In response, Alex pulled out his phone, opened his photos, and held it up to show the most recent image, himself on the winner's podium at the State Youth Championships 3 months ago. Gold medal around his neck, his coach and father standing proudly beside him. More whispers spread through the crowd. So all this time, Emma began. I didn't want trouble, Alex said simply. I still don't. Tyler's face was a complex mix of anger, humiliation, and disbelief. For a moment it seemed like he might attack again, but then his shoulders slumped slightly. Whatever, he muttered. Not worth my time anyway. As Tyler and his friends retreated across the parking lot, the gathered students began to disperse, many of them looking at Alex with new eyes. Several boys approached him with questions about his training. A few patted him on the back or offered fist bumps. Emma stood watching, a small smile on her face. That was impressive, she said, when he finally made his way back to her. I'm probably going to be in huge trouble, Alex admitted, the adrenaline beginning to fade. My dad's going to freak out. I've got the whole thing on video, Emma said, holding up her phone. It clearly shows them attacking you and you defending yourself with minimal force. You didn't even hit anyone, just controlled them. She paused. Plus, about 20 witnesses saw Tyler try to destroy my laptop by throwing it in water. I think you'll be okay. Alex nodded, hoping she was right. Thanks. Why did you hide it? She asked as they began walking toward the buses. Your training, I mean. Alex considered the question. It's complicated. My dad always taught me that. Fighting is the last resort, that I should be proud of my skills but not flaunt them. He shrugged. Plus, every time we move, I just try to blend in. Well, blending in is officially off the table now, Emma noted, nodding toward the students still watching him with newfound interest. By tomorrow, everyone will know. Surprisingly, the thought didn't bother Alex as much as it would have a few weeks ago. Maybe that's not so bad. Definitely not bad, Emma agreed. In fact, I was wondering if you wanted to sit with me at lunch tomorrow. My friends have been dying to meet you anyway. I'd like that, Alex said, a genuine smile spreading across his face for the first time in weeks. As he boarded his bus, Alex felt lighter somehow, as if he'd set down a heavy weight he'd been carrying. He wasn't naive enough to think all his problems were solved. There would certainly be conversations with the principal, with his parents, possibly even with Tyler's parents. But for now, he allowed himself to feel a quiet satisfaction, not because he had humiliated Tyler, that had never been his goal, but because he had finally stopped hiding who he really was. Sometimes you have to show people who you really are, not to hurt them, but to stop them from hurting you. His coach had been right, and now, for the first time since arriving at Westlake High, Alex felt like he might actually belong.